Welcome to True North Perspective, your source for unfiltered news. My name is Sean. Wildfires continue to rage across Canada, spreading devastation and forcing thousands to evacuate their homes. In this episode of TNP, we delve into the intense battle against nature's fury, the heroic actions of firefighters and emergency workers, and the broader implications of this disaster. Canada is no stranger to wildfires, but this year's infernos in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta are unprecedented in scope and destruction. Tens of thousands of people have been displaced, communities have been ravaged, and critical infrastructure has been disrupted. The fires have spread so rapidly that officials in multiple provinces have declared states of emergency to mobilize resources and assist with evacuation efforts. Let's take a look at a quick video that shows us the exact situation.
The Premier of Saskatchewan triggered a province-wide state of emergency because of conditions. It is dry out here, it's hot out here, and shifting winds are making it difficult for firefighters on the front lines. The emergency order gives Saskatchewan priority access to federal resources should they be requested. Saskatchewan's two largest wildfires have merged, burning more than 216,000 hectares, an area nearly 9 times the size of Saskatoon.
Likely in the days ahead, and this is our fear and why we're here today, is we think in 2 and 4 and 6 days we're going to be in a more challenging situation than we are today.
The Premier says there are no local resources sitting on the shelf. Everything is being deployed and help is coming in. Alaska is lending Saskatchewan an air tanker. Quebec is sending 2 water bombers, and firefighters from Nova Scotia and PEI are on the way. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency is apologizing after an emergency alert went out, missing key information, sparking confusion and panic.
We know it was human error, and we're going to look into it to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Road closures and evacuation orders are in effect, with thousands forced to flee their homes. Saskatchewan's state of emergency will remain in effect for 30 days with the possibility of an extension. Laura Woodward, CTV News, Prince Albert.
Mervyn Dale is 71 years old and one of the last people standing in Lynn Lake.
If the worst comes to the worst and my property started on fire, I have a grand total of 100 to 150 yards to walk to jump into a lake up to my neck.
His photos and updates are keeping residents up to date on a wildfire quickly approaching the town. He said he got his latest update from officials on the ground.
They are the belief that the fire situation is now about to breach the town limits, the actual town site, and that'll be breached, they believe, behind the hospital somewhere there.
Thousands have left the city of Flin Flon, and satellite imagery shows the fire spreading across provincial borders as Saskatchewan residents have also fled. On Thursday morning, Flin Flon City Council said the fire is holding. Officials warned air access is limited due to smoke and air quality.
We are still under a state of emergency. This is a mandatory evacuation. We will not be able to find you if you do not leave right now.
But some people haven't even left yet. In Cross Lake First Nation, more than 700 are still there, and 6,500 members have taken refuge in Norway House Cree Nation, though they were only prepared for 1,000 evacuees.
We're still at the point where we're trying to get people out to the Norway House and then to Winnipeg and wherever they may be going. There's some problems in terms of accommodation. Some people walking around all night with their kids and stuff like that. Some people sleeping in fields.
For Dale, the present-day fires may be a future warning.
I think it's to a point now where there's no turning the clock back. We're going to literally have to adjust to this. For many, many years, we've been living under the assumption that we can control nature.
It's important to note the Whiteshell and Nopaming provincial park fires are still raging out of control, and MKO, which represents Northern First Nations, just put out a warning that a wildfire is quickly moving towards Tatasqueyak Cree Nation, Fox Lake Cree Nation, and York Factory.
Joseph, what about people currently in these communities?
According to MKO, Road 280 has been closed, isolating those First Nations, and they're requesting immediate evacuation of the elderly, children, and those living with health challenges. They're requesting more air support to get people to safety, Taylor.
Thanks, Joseph.
Although a drone may capture stellar video like this, officials are reminding operators to keep them away from wildfire.
So I'm just going to pause this for just a quick second. This message is extremely important for those that are still close to the fire, that are within the vicinity. Please do not use drones. They do impede the progress that the firefighters and the medical professionals are trying to do to help. So please make sure that you don't use those drones. If you're one of those idiots that is using the drone there, please don't do it because it's causing a lot of issues. Take a look at what they have to say.
Immediately upon a wildfire being identified, the airspace around it is automatically restricted from any air operations without authority, and that includes now drone operations.
The warnings come after a personal drone near Flin Flon Tuesday forced crews to ground a water bomber battling a blaze near that community.
Folks are not hearing the message that flying a drone near a wildfire is dangerous and does impede our efforts to respond.
Getting some views on YouTube is not worth it. You got a community of thousands of people who's on the verge of evacuation, and one of the reasons is because we couldn't fly water bombers in the area.
According to Transport Canada, flying a drone over or near a wildfire without permission increases the risk a firefighting aircraft may collide with a drone. And if a drone is spotted in the area, emergency response teams need to ground their operations, which could put lives at risk. And
so you'll see that they were trying to get a bunch of water bombers in, and there was a drone that nicked it, and it damaged the plane severely. So once again, please don't be dumb. Let them do their jobs. There's people's lives at risk here. Let's continue and take a look at what they have to say.
As personal use of drones increases, so too does the danger. In January, a drone struck the plane's wing of a water bomber from Quebec, fighting fires in Los Angeles, severely damaging the aircraft and temporarily taking it out of service, something crews in Saskatchewan want to avoid.
We have a lot of dedicated pilots and individuals that are trying to suppress and protect communities. These incidents they don't need to happen.
Federal regulators add penalties for breaking drone use rules around wildfires, include heavy fines or even jail time. Donovan, CTV News, Regina.
This gives you an idea.
This is what Tony Noski saw outside his truck while escaping a wildfire in Loon River First Nation in the middle of the night, packing up his family of 8 and driving south.
Scary because you can see the flames right from the highway. We still smell like fire on our clothing because we haven't slept or we drove all night.
Noski is one of dozens of families staying in Edmonton hotels after wildfires pushed them out of their communities. Hundreds of people in Red Earth Creek, Peerless Trout First Nation, Loon River First Nation were all forced to evacuate, along with Chippewan Lake earlier in the evening.
We see the smoke on the side of the road where that fire was, and it's kind of scary because you never know what will happen.
The fires burning in these communities are what Alberta Wildfire calls the Red Earth East Wildfire Complex, around 10,000 hectares burning.
It's a clump of, I think, 8 to 10 fires. Some of them are really, really tiny, and others, of course, have grown to a significant size.
Wildfires of concern are also being watched near Kelly Lake, BC, not far from the Alberta border, and Conklin in eastern Alberta. More than 1,300 people in Swan Hills remain displaced after being evacuated Monday night.
We've got guard up the west side, and we're working up the east side, so we've kind of got a hollow box being built around it. And we're continuing, of course, with crews, helicopters, and air tankers are continuing to work that fire.
With hot, dry, and windy conditions, firefighters are bracing for fires to intensify.
They could grow in areas where we haven't got containment around them yet, yes. That's something that I wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
Leaving evacuees to wonder when and what they'll come home to.
Short notice like that, Andre, back.
So you can see for yourself the situation is very, very dire. Shout out to the heroes, our firefighters, and the paramedics who are in the area. Some firefighters are actually still trapped within the fire and they're unable to get out because they're fighting the fire. So, shout out for them. Stay safe. Just to give you a summary, Manitoba has been hit especially hard with over 17,000 people evacuated so far. Flin Flon, a city with 5,000 residents, has been completely evacuated as the flames encroached on the community. The fires have also knocked out power in Cranberry Portage, leaving residents without electricity as they face already dire situations. In Saskatchewan, as I mentioned too, is grappling with the devastation caused by wildfires. The northeast region of the province is especially vulnerable, with over 4,000 residents forced to flee their homes. Pelican Narrows has been severely impacted with more than 2,000 people evacuated. The province's declaration of state of emergency highlights the severity of the crisis and the need for coordinated efforts to tackle the fires and support affected communities. Diving right into Alberta's emergency response teams have faced perilous conditions, particularly in Chippewan Lake. Firefighters there temporarily lost radio contact and have had to find shelter before they could resume their efforts. Several communities, including Swan Hills and Piers, have been evacuated as the fires continue to spread. Despite the challenges, crews remain steadfast in their mission to protect lives and property. Let's talk about the conditions that are ongoing right now. Hot and dry conditions have fueled the wildfires, exacerbating the situation. Unfortunately, weather forecasts show little promise of rain, leaving officials and residents in a precarious position. The federal government has stepped in to assist with evacuation efforts and provide critical resources, but the battling against the fires remains daunting. Let's take a look at a video that describes what the situation is like with the breathing and with the environment itself. It's a very quick video.
Warnings have been posted in the upper Midwest advising people with heart or lung disease, older adults, and pregnant people to limit outdoor activities. The reason is wildfires burning in Western Canada, some of them hundreds of miles away. Meteorologists say that this weekend the smoke and the fine particulate matter it carries could reach Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Chris Foltz is a National Weather Service Central Region Fire Weather Program Manager.
The smoke is being wafted into the air, and with the weather pattern that's in place right now, we've got an area of low pressure basically just east of Hudson Bay over the Great Lakes, which is bringing that air south. We also have a ridge of high pressure over the western U.S., which is kind of helping to funnel that smoke from Canada down through the northern plains and into the middle Mississippi Valley.
Earlier, I spoke with Matthew Capucci, meteorologist at MyRadar. I asked him about the health risks from the smoke.
Well, there are two things I think folks are most likely noticing. Number one, anytime you have this fine particulate matter, we call it PM 2.5, down at ground level, that's dangerous for elderly, vulnerable populations. That's a big concern over parts of the upper Midwest, obviously Canada, where the wildfires are originating, but across North Dakota, across much of Minnesota, the entire state of Minnesota, under an air quality alert right now, which will likely be pushed into early next week. Parts of Michigan, north of Chicago, and in Wisconsin. A lot of folks of the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. Now, when the smoke is up high, causing changes to the light, it's harmless, but down near the surface, when we're breathing it in, it's really bad. It's like if you were sitting next to a campfire and breathing that in, you wouldn't want to do that. If I were in North Dakota right now, I'd be turning off my air conditioning and only circulating the air inside my home.
So the danger and the threat is the same hundreds of miles away as if you were sitting next to that fire.
Yeah, most definitely. Unless we're really ventilating the atmosphere, taking what's down low and sort of diffusing it higher aloft, then we still have those high concentrations at the surface. We're seeing over 200 on the air quality scale. Anything over 50 is bad, but over 200 in parts of North Dakota right now. And my fear is that as these fires continue to burn, we're just adding more smoke to the atmosphere, and it can surf these jet stream winds, winds in the upper atmosphere, down over North America. Back in 2023, we saw the smoke reach all the way down to New York City, turning the skies orange as far south as like Tennessee Valley. I don't think, at least initially, it will get that bad farther south, but still, over the northern tier, we could see some very high-end impacts with this.
And talk a little bit about the air quality index. What does it take to trigger an advisory?
It all has to do with the concentrations of how much of that particulate matter is in the atmosphere. The denser the concentrations, the higher the number goes. Anytime I'm seeing numbers around 200, that's the point where you can smell and you can taste the smoke in the air. Your eyes might start to sting, your throat might hurt a little bit, and especially for those vulnerable populations, it's a really significant hazard.
You talked about turning off the air conditioning. That ventilation could bring it into your house?
Yeah, anything folks can do to eliminate, essentially, outside air coming in is what I would really recommend. We hate to say it, but those N95 masks from the COVID era could come in handy because, once again, the smoke is made up of these fine little particulates that you don't want to be breathing in. If you have to go outside in the affected areas, that's a really good thing to sort of put one protective layer between you and the air you're breathing in.
And once again, just to remind people, when there's an air quality advisory, are there particular people who need to be especially careful?
Anybody with pre-existing conditions, the elderly, those with respiratory conditions, underlying conditions, children, especially vulnerable to, infants, babies, and then sort of after everyone else, middle-aged folks too. But really, when the air quality gets as bad as it is over parts of the northern plains and the upper Midwest right now, that's dangerous for anybody.
What are Canadian officials saying about how significant these fires are?
They're sort of sounding the alarm. They're sort of peaking their scales. Right now, for example, Alberta and Ontario are under an extreme risk of wildfires. That's verbiage rarely used by Environment Canada. That's the equivalent up there of the National Weather Service in the U.S. And to sort of max out the scale says this is a higher end event. Likewise, the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center has drawn up a level 5 out of 5. They're basically saying all systems go in terms of combating and fighting these fires. They're allocating all the resources they have to. When they sort of max out these scales, that's a sign of a really significant event underway. And we're still so early in the summer. We're just getting into June now. This is something we more typically see later into June into early July. So I do fear this could be another bad fire season for our neighbors to the north. And one thing we're noting, with climate change, we're seeing sort of a tendency for these heat domes, these blocking bridges of high pressure, to last a little longer, be a little stronger, be a little bigger, and more stubborn. And that's sort of tilting the scales to higher end fire events.
Wow. Matthew Capucci of My Radar, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you can see for yourselves the situation is very dire. To the elderly, to those that suffer from respiratory issues, please make sure to have access to masks. If you are within the vicinity of the fire, please make sure to block out, put wet towels under the door, make sure that the smoke doesn't get to you. Stay safe. It is a very tough time. It is good to see that all the provinces are coming together to help each other, and our neighbors from the U.S. are also helping out. Amid the chaos, stories of resilience and heroism have emerged. Emergency workers, firefighters, and volunteers are working tirelessly to save lives, evacuate communities, and provide support to those displaced by fires. Their courage and determination serves as a beacon of hope during this challenging time. While the situation is dire, there is an opportunity for collective action and solidarity. Canadians and people worldwide can support affected communities through donations, volunteering, and advocacy. Together, we can light in the smoke, bring hope and relief to those in need. Stay tuned for more updates as TNP continues to cover this critical story. Thank you for watching, and remember, through empathy and action, we can make a difference. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the algorithm. I'll see you in the next video.